Before Egypt and the pyramids, before the idea of recorded history itself, there was a civilization that rose from the dust of time and carved the first words into clay. In the land we now call Iraq, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers meet, something extraordinary began. They called it Sumer, humanity's first known civilization. Thousands of years ago, when most humans lived in small tribes or caves, the Sumerians built real cities. Cities with walls, marketplaces, temples, roads, and rules. They didn't just survive, they organized. They didn't just speak, they wrote. On clay tablets, they recorded everything: trade deals, laws, prayers, myths, and the movements of the stars. This was humanity's first step into history itself. But who were they, and how did they leap so far ahead of everyone else? This was 4,500 years before Christ. No steel, no computers, no satellites, and yet Sumer had wheels, irrigation systems, mathematics, government, and religion. They divided time into 60 seconds, 60 minutes, and 12 hours. They charted constellations with astonishing accuracy. They built ziggurats, massive step-like temples that reached for the sky. And deep within their stories were beings called the Anunnaki gods, who came from above. Not just a few deities, but dozens, each with their own domains, powers, and temples. These gods didn't simply rule, they descended. Some ancient tablets even describe flying crafts, glowing chariots, and knowledge that was given from the heavens. To some, it sounds like mythology. To others, it sounds like something more. Ancient astronaut theorists believe the Anunnaki were not gods at all, but visitors from the stars, beings who taught humans agriculture, writing, and law, then vanished. Is there evidence, or is it just imagination? That's the mystery. Because the more we learn about Sumer, the stranger it seems. Their knowledge of astronomy was so precise, they identified planets invisible to the naked eye. Their math was a basic system we still use in geometry and timekeeping. Their cities had drainage systems, streets laid out in grids, and bureaucracies that collected taxes. And they wrote stories older than any other civilization we know. The most famous is the Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest epic in the world, which tells of a great flood sent to cleanse humanity. A man builds a boat, fills it with animals, and survives. Sound familiar? This story predates the Bible by centuries, coincidence, or a memory passed down and retold across cultures. But the greatest enigma of all is how Sumer appeared. There is no slow evolution, no trail of smaller settlements that gradually became cities. One day, there is nothing. The next day, there are cities with walls, laws, temples, and writing. It feels as if civilization itself was downloaded into their minds. Uruk, the first known city, held 50,000 people when most of the world still had no towns. They had kings, tax collectors, judges, and merchants. They traded goods as far as India. And then, over centuries, they disappeared. Conquered by the Akkadians, absorbed into Babylon, their language slowly vanished. But their legacy never died. Every Mesopotamian empire that followed stood on the foundations Sumer built. Writing, courts, taxation, record-keeping, all began with those ancient clay tablets. Even today, thousands of these tablets remain in museum vaults, untranslated and unread. Because each cuneiform symbol holds layers of meaning, and reading them is a puzzle. Some believe these unread tablets still hide secrets about who the Sumerians truly were. What if the stories of the Anunnaki are not just myths, but memories? Memories of a time when humanity was not alone, or of a forgotten chapter in our own history. Some scientists suggest that human civilization could be much older than we think. That Sumer was not the first beginning, but a restart after a lost global catastrophe. Like a memory slowly surfacing through the fog of time. The Sumerians may have been the messengers, the ones who preserved what came before. But as humanity moved forward, their warnings faded. Their cities turned to ruins. Their ziggurats sank under sand. Their gods became legends. And yet, their influence is still with us. We live by their time, 60 seconds, 60 minutes, 12 hours. We measure circles and angles with their math. We build societies on the foundations they laid down. And perhaps, we still look to the stars with the same questions they once asked. Who are we? Where did we come from? Are we alone? Maybe they were just like us. Dreamers in the desert, carving their questions into clay, hoping someone would remember, hoping someone would understand, and that the journey they began would continue. The journey to become more than survival, to become civilization itself. So next time you glance at the clock, remember where 60 minutes came from. Next time you hear a story of a great flood, think of Gilgamesh. Next time you see ancient ruins or wonder about beings from the sky, remember the first people who looked up at the stars and asked, "Who are we?" The first who wrote their thoughts down so they would never be lost. The first who built something that could outlast them. That was them, the Sumerians. Lost in time, but never forgotten. Their legacy flows beneath every city we build today. Every law, every letter, every tick of the clock. It all began there, in the cradle of civilization. In